One of the things that myself and my mentor Gene DeQuilly talked so much about in the context of animal rituals and mating rituals is that they're very stimulatory. There's the rhythmic element of them, which can be in the form of music or body movements. But basically, what you're doing to stimulate the brain, to stimulate the body, you're using every sensory processing, every sensory system that you can, basically. So if you think about, any rituals that any of you have engaged in, and whether they had to do with sexuality or spirituality, you mentioned a perfect example about being in church. Well, think about all the sensory stimuli that occur in church. You have the smells that you were talking about. So the sense of smell, and that it could be the incense, it could be the smell of the wood in the building, it could be the smell of the bodies in the building, and the people with you. Then you have the visual stimuli, and that could be various symbols that are religious, and it could be a cross, it could be a crescent, what it could be, the image of God or a saint or whatever. That these visual images, these visual representations, even what a minister or priest or rabbi or imam are wearing, that's visual, and it's giving you some kind of visual stimuli. There's the touch. You talked about kneeling. So you're feeling something in your knees. You're putting your body in a certain position. Sometimes you're touching people next to you. You might be holding hands. You might touch a sacred book or something like that. And then taste as well. So many traditions utilize wine, different foods, and so forth. You think about the communion in the Christian context of the wine and the wafer that you taste, and all of that is very stimulating to the brain. It means these are things that we need to pay attention to, and it takes it. In the context of ritual, it takes everything to a different level. So, and communion is a great example here, because it's not that you sort of understand a certain religious concept about sort of the blood of Christ, for example. It's not that you just cognitively understand it, but you are partaking in it. It becomes a part of you, becomes a part, you feel it in your body. And again, this is true of all traditions. So I'm not just, we're just taking this one as an example. But this to me is so powerful. And of course, mating rituals have all of the same things. So if you look into the animal world and you look at the mating rituals, there are the smells that the animal has. There oftentimes are the visual displays. It could be the beautiful plumage of a peacock, or it could be certain movements that one animal spots and sees those movements in another. It's certainly the feeling of touch and sometimes taste as well. So all the different ways in which we sense the world, really we're taking advantage of that in all the rituals that we have. And it does ultimately go back to all the sensory stimuli that are part of that mating ritual that causes a sense of arousal, that causes us to feel energized, and that really brings our whole being to this kind of ecstatic experience, ultimately, that can be a sexual ecstasy or it could be a spiritual ecstasy, depending on the context.